This is Newswatch at noon with Susan Merkel, weather with Dave Barrons, and sports with Charlie Whinham.
Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're enjoying this sunny Wednesday. In the news today, a scuffle in Wexford County ended in gunfire last night. One man was injured during the incident and flown to Munson Medical Center by North Flight. His assailant was set to be arraigned at 11 o'clock this morning, charged with felonious assault with a deadly weapon. That arraignment has not yet taken place. Sheriff's deputies say a 50-year-old Cadillac man shot another Cadillac man around 9 o'clock last night in a residence northeast of the city. The unidentified victim sustained wounds to his head and to his hand and is now in stable condition at Munson Medical Center. The victim's name has not yet been released. An update today on the AIDS epidemic in our state, now in its 10th year. Michigan health officials say the number of people with AIDS increased 16% last year compared to 1988. They say the deadly immunological disease shows no sign of easing. Officials report the most dramatic increase came among women, blacks, and people in their 40s. An increase, too, in interest for nurses at Munson Medical Center to join a union. At least that's the word from a representative of the Michigan Nurses Association. MNA Representative Mary Lee Packheiser addressed the union issue last night with groups of nurses and healthcare workers, most of them from Munson Medical Center. Last February, the MNA announced RNs and healthcare professionals were seeking collective bargaining services through the association. Organizers say the money is not the only issue. Workers want more input in policy decision-making. Packheiser says a vote will probably be held at Munson within the year to decide whether or not to unionize. Fishermen in Boyne City fear a proposed marina would damage a spawning ground there. Opponents of the marina spoke out to the City Commission Tuesday to protest those plans. They say the site in front of the One Water Street restaurant is an important fish habitat. Developers, on the other hand, say the 65-slip marina would not damage an existing habitat, but rather create a new one. Plans for the marina are only in the early stages. A permit application has been submitted. Now the DNR will hold public meetings on all the future plans. And if you had any plans to make a phone call this morning and you live in Leelanau County, well, you probably heard only silence. That's because all phones were out in Glen Arbor this morning from before 7 till just before 9 o'clock this morning. Empire residents lost their long-distance service for a time. Century phone service did have some trouble, but they did get the lines working as soon as possible. And it took quite a few tries, but Pine River School District voters approved a $26.4 million renewal yesterday. Superintendent Lee Sandy says the approval guarantees the system can now operate for another 3 years. The district voted 4 times in 1989 before approving this millage. Well, practice makes perfect for police dogs, and as Dave Fortin reports, even the dog handlers need a little training.
The dog attacks on the first command. The second command is for the dog to stop the attack. The third, return to the officer.
The various departments get together, usually on a weekly basis, go over problems that they have, set up different simulations, basically work what they would do normally in the street.
This assessment event and an organization called the Michigan Police Canine Committee grew out of those smaller regional weekend outings. The purpose of this larger gathering is to try to set police dog training standards. Over 40 dogs and their handlers from police and sheriff departments throughout the state attended the 3-day session. Most dogs are trained either in drug detection, tracking, or aggression. A few are able to learn 2 or more jobs.
Vader, I got when he was 9 months old. He's 6 years old now. I use him for tracking and handler protection work. Takes about sometimes up to 3 or 4 months to get a dog trained to do the patrol work, utility work that Vader does.
While what the dogs are doing in the one exercise is considered an attack and looks quite violent, the handlers emphasize that only the amount of force and aggression that's needed to subdue the criminal is used. The idea of these exercises is to see just how much control the handlers do have. Dave Fortin, Newswatch 7 and 4, Higgins Lake.
Well, the Reeds are back together again. We'll have that story for you up next. Well, the Reeds have had one happy family reunion. Fifi Reed has joined her husband in West Germany, but she says he's quite angry at everybody, including U.S. officials, for letting the hostage situation drag on. Reed was held with 2 other hostages until just hours before his release.
In a news conference this morning, Fifi Reed, joined by her son Tarek, described the moment she was reunited with her husband.
See the person, and we hugged, and there was a moment of silence, complete silence. None of us said a word. It was just hugging, hugging, hugging.
Mrs. Reed said her husband paced the hospital room, talking constantly, sometimes in a disconnected manner, changing subjects quickly. Physically, Reed continues to do well. His wife said he was held tied and blindfolded for over 3.5 years. His captors moved him about Beirut from time to time as fighting there grew heavy, and when other hostages were released. She said he was held once with 5 or 6 other hostages, including Terry Anderson, and was angry to learn they were still captive.
He's angry with everybody for the length of time they were kept, he was kept, and for the length of time the others were kept.
Mrs. Reed said her husband's group of hostages were not allowed to talk with each other while in captivity. She says good luck played quite a part in her husband's release. In other news, state police in New York have sealed off a Mohawk Indian reservation torn apart by a dispute over gambling. The reservation straddles the U.S.-Canadian border. It erupted in violence on Tuesday in shootings that left 2 people dead. The trouble on the reservation is over 6 casinos. Some say the casino supplies jobs, but others say they're destroying the tribes and values. As you see in West Berlin, more than 130 people are under arrest following a violent night of clashes there. As in the past years, the May Day holiday turned violent with youths throwing rocks and setting fires. Hundreds of people were hurt in that clash. And rain, it just keeps coming down in the southern plains states, and they don't need any of it. Texas towns received more than 5 inches of rain Tuesday, and flash floods and high storm warnings are always in effect there, have been all morning long. At least 4 people have died in all that rushing water. Some amazing video. Well, no floods are expected in our area, just sunshine and some cooler temperatures. Dave Barrons is off this afternoon, so I'll have today's forecast for you all up next. Well, no clouds are headed our way, at least for the next couple of days. Let's take a look at the current satellite picture. In motion for today's weather activity, you can see the storms building in the southern plains states. That's all due to that, or causing all that flooding we just showed you moments ago. But if you follow that precipitation line up to the east, you see it never quite hits our region, even though we do need a little rain out there. The cold air moving in from the north is the dominant system for us today. Those partly cloudy skies should prevail for most of us through tomorrow. But of course, even with some of the clouds comes that slight chance for scattered showers. Only a slight chance, though. Take a glance at the west end of the country. Snow in the Colorado Rockies, up to 3 feet in some spots. Pretty warm out in the northeastern area, and super hot in Florida if you're heading that way for some vacation. Be thankful we don't have to worry about any of that snow, though. Now let's take a look at today's forecast. Mostly sunny skies, and they're brilliant out there right now if you've had a chance to get outside, steal a little lunch outside, take a walk, and enjoy it also because there's just a lot of less wind there today. Highs to be in the mid-50s with southwest winds. Then for tonight, mostly clear and cold up north. Partly cloudy, though, here for us in the south with lows. Look at that, around freezing. So do cover the plants. We're going to have a lot of frost warnings, too. Then for tomorrow, increasing cloudiness, as I said, with a slight chance for rain down in the south. Temperatures just the same as you're feeling right now, only in the mid-50s. And Charlie's here. Dave was off. He'll be back at 6, but you're here now.
That's right.
And what's up? You've got some good news about Pistons, I know.
Isn't it nice to start talking about good news?
Yay.
Pistons are always doing well, and the Tigers aren't, it seems like. But maybe that trend will turn around. Well, actually, that'll add to it. Maybe we'll also have Tigers doing very well. Good afternoon, everyone. The Detroit Pistons were one of 3 teams to sweep their first-round playoff action last night, while another 3 teams stayed alive in the chase for the NBA title. There was a lot of fanfare at Indy's Market Square Arena for the hometown Pacers last night, but it was the Pistons crashing all party plans as Bill Laimbeer slices through the defense for a smashing 2. Pistons clear out underneath, and Isaiah Thomas finds Mark Aguirre all alone on the baseline. Isaiah Thomas was game-high scorer with 23 points. Just before the half, Pistons take a final pacer shot away and run and gun it before the horn. Joe Dumars makes it 54-45 at halftime. Check out the rough play. Reggie Miller body checks Dennis Rodman to the ground. Would it start a fight? Not tonight. Pistons stayed fairly docile and eliminated the Pacers from the playoffs with a 108-96 win. In Houston, the Rockets stay alive by beating the L.A. Lakers. Otis Thorpe goes coast to coast in a 114-108 win over L.A. Lakers still lead that series 2-1. The Cleveland Cavaliers blasted Philadelphia 122-95. Mark Price leads the break to feed Brad Daugherty. Sixers are still up, and they're up 2-1 in that series. At Milwaukee, the Michael Jordan Show included a 48-point performance, but the Bucks brought down the curtain on the Bulls. A Jordan turnover late in the game is recovered by 7-footer Brad Lohaus, who staggers down the court, but finally makes it down for 2 points. Milwaukee wins it 119-112. And San Antonio swept the Denver Nuggets with an 11-point win, and Portland also sweeps, leaving the Dallas Mavericks heading off into the sunset. Well, it appears that the Detroit Tigers are becoming therapy to any big league team that needs a victory. Last night, the ailing Minnesota Twins came to town and snapped their 4-game losing streak. Let's check out the highlights. Tigers look good early. Third inning, Gene Larkin's liner is caught by Dave Bergman, and while a Minnesota runner is stuck between first and second base, Greg Gagne heads home, and Bergman guns him down in a close one. Escanaba native Kevin Tapani was cranked for 2 Tiger homers. The first one delivered by Larry Sheets that finds a home in the orange seats of the upper deck. Then with 2 on, Lloyd Mosby gives Detroit a 4-3 lead with this baseball blast-off. And that, sports fans, just about comes to the end of our Tiger Rainbow. An error by Tony Phillips comes up in the 5th inning, and that gave Minnesota the lead for good. Final score, Twins win it 9 and Tigers 5. Well, the Texas Rangers lost as well last night, but look at this play by Ranger center fielder Gary Pettis. He's on his horse. He brings down the fly ball. Simply amazing. Got to see it again. Remember, if you can't always keep your eye on the ball, run like all get out and go to where you think it's going to go. And it looks like Detroit Lion quarterback Chuck Long will need some suntan lotion soon. Long's agent says the Lion QB has agreed to contract terms with the LA Rams and probably will be traded by Detroit later today. And how's this for honesty, Susan? Golfer Steve Elkington, he disqualified himself Tuesday from a $10,000 prize after finishing 21st in last weekend's USFNG tournament in New Orleans. Wow. Seems like he had incorrectly signed a scorecard of 79 instead of 80, so he turned himself into officials. But
gotta go back to math class.
Don't worry, because he won $250,000 2 weeks ago after winning his first PGA tournament at the Greater Greensboro Open in North Carolina.
So he'll be doing okay.
He's still doing good.
Don't get the extra 10 though. Maybe he's gonna give it to us.
Yeah, it's just like tip money anyway.
Yeah, it's true. Caddy would have liked it though. Thanks a lot, Charlie.
Sure.
And we'll be back after this. Well, if you have a new kitten or a new puppy dog, it might be a lot of fun to have that new pet, but it also might be a lot of problems if you don't quite know how to handle them. So today, Dr. Dan Asia joins us to give us some great tips, as you always do.
Hi, Susan.
Welcome.
Good to be here, and I'll tell you, I think the very first thing we'll talk about is when do you get that pet?
Okay.
You know, what age do you want to take that kitten or puppy home? And especially, it's very important for dogs, and the optimum time is 6 to 8 weeks of age. If you take that puppy or kitten away from the mom earlier, you can end up with a very submissive, fearful type pet, because there's an important socialization process that goes on with the pet, and that's important that the puppy stay with mom until really 6 to 8 weeks of age. Now, getting the puppy or kitten older than that, if they've not had a lot of human contact, you can end up with a very domineering or dominant type pet. So optimum time is 6 to 8 weeks of age. That's the perfect time. Once you get that pet and you get them home, when do you start the vaccines?
Yeah, there's so many things to do.
Right.
Finally chose one, and now what?
Well, right about that time is the correct time to start vaccination programs. And so that's the time to schedule a visit with your veterinarian. Bring the pet in, and that's when you'll start the vaccine series. Then dogs will vaccinate at roughly 8 weeks of age, 12 weeks of age, and then the last puppy vaccine at 16 weeks of age.
Okay.
Cats will start at 9 weeks of age, and then we'll booster again at about 12 weeks of age. So when you first get them, bring them in.
Will each veterinarian know what's going on, and they'll give each customer their own scheduling process?
That's correct.
Not something that you have to ask for?
No, that's correct. When you go in, your veterinarian should explain the vaccine series to you and when the pet should be seen and really why. That's a question that comes up a lot, is why do they get a series? And it's very important because the series is what gives the pet their immunity, their lifelong immunity. And if you skip vaccines in that series, you do compromise the dog's or cat's health, for that matter.
Okay.
One vaccine we'll talk about just real briefly on cats that's important, but still it's overlooked, and that's the feline leukemia virus. Feline leukemia is a terrible disease, and it is still probably one of the least vaccinations that people will give, and that is probably the most important. That kills more cats, and it's very similar. You had a little piece about AIDS, and it's very similar to the human AIDS virus. So
why aren't doctors giving it, you say?
The doctors will give it, but most people will tend to avoid it because they've not heard much about it, and they'll get the feline distemper, but they'll pass on the leukemia, when in reality we'll see more leukemia than we do distemper, and so it's important to really get them both. And your veterinarian, if he doesn't mention the feline leukemia, ask him about it. That's very important.
Hopefully our veterinarian will take care of all the medical side. What about when we take this puppy or kitten home?
When you take the kitten home, well, first thing you're going to do is you're going to pick up food and start to feed the puppy. And most puppies or kittens should be on, especially puppies, should be on dry food. If you can avoid the canned food immediately, that's the way to do it. And puppies, we'll start them on 3 to 4 meals a day, basically until they're about 16 weeks of age, 3 to 4 meals a day. And then at 16 weeks of age, we'll cut back to 2 meals a day forevermore. Strictly dry food, no milk. Everyone sees pets getting milk on TV, but no milk. They cannot digest the milk properly, and it usually leads to diarrhea in the pets. So
stick with water.
That's correct. Water to drink.
Okay. What about when they get dirty? Kind of like a frail baby, you don't want them to get wet and cold and
that's a good
overprotection.
Question. And I'll tell you that what we will tell our clients is when the pet starts to smell bathe them, you know, on an average, that's every 2 to 4 weeks or so. And what do you use? You can use baby shampoo, you can use puppy or kitten shampoo, avoid adult shampoos, adult human shampoos, they tend to be harsh on the skin. Avoid flea shampoos. Flea shampoos should only be used when you have a flea problem. Flea shampoos will dry out the coat, so if you don't have a flea problem, stay away from the flea shampoos.
So it's really too rough on their skin.
It really is. And and when you do bathe them, you should always follow every bath with a creamer. It's just like you'd use on yourself.
Really?
Just put moisture into the coat. Sure.
I've never heard that before. That's interesting. You know, what I'm thinking about is when we had a new puppy, all the teeth are falling out. What do you do, and
well,
how do you deal with that?
That also, every animal between 12 weeks of age and 6 months of age will lose every tooth in their head, and that's very important. That's why they tend to go through that teething process. But every tooth in their head they'll lose between 12 weeks and 6 months. By the time they're 6 months of age, all the adult teeth will be in. It's very important during that period of time that you give the puppies something to chew on, especially puppies, a play toy that's their own right for teething, because they will teeth. There's no way to stop teething. It's like, that would be like trying to stop a baby from putting things in their mouth. It's just not going to do it. So you prefer to give them something that they like.
Okay, thanks a lot for some really useful tips once again.
Sure.
We'll see you next month.
Very good.
And we'll be right back after this. Well, if you have children, you likely have daycare needs as well. Today, Evelyn Peterson has some tips on choosing one on today's edition of Parent Talk.
Today, there's such a need for childcare that many people think they should open up a daycare business. People should think about this very carefully before deciding to do it. Good childcare involves lots more than babysitting, and it's much more difficult to open a center than one would expect. Childcare centers can be very expensive to operate. The rules and regulations are extensive, and city or county zoning will affect proposed locations. The director or lead teacher of a center must have proper training and qualifications according to state law. A person who loves children or has experience working with them isn't enough. Competency-based training in early childhood education and college classes in child development are also important or required. So is CPR and first aid training. People who are really interested in childcare as a business should find out all they can before making this important decision. In Michigan, the county or state Department of Social Services can give you the direction or information you need. I'm Evelyn Peterson, and this is Parent Talk.
Well, Mike Cherry joins us now from the Cherryland Humane Society with some perfect kittens at the perfect time to buy. They're 8 weeks old, you say?
That's right. They're both 8 weeks old. The kitten that you have is Achilles, and Achilles,
Look at this face.
little male cat,
Yeah.
couldn't remember, and he's got 2 litter mates back at the shelter.
Yeah.
And then
Do the litter mates look like this with the brown and the white?
Pretty similar.
Great.
And then this little gal is named May, and May is 8 weeks old also, a little female. She was found with her litter mates and mother as a stray.
Aw.
And she has 3 litter mates at the shelter. So
Cats, you have mostly cats, don't you?
right now we do. We have a lot of
right
cats.
now, a lot of cats.
Yeah.
And people probably do like little kittens. Do they
yes.
adopt kittens before a full-grown cat? Whoopsie, we have little...
Yeah, a lot of people really like little kittens, and they'll come in looking for them. And this is a good time of the year, of course.
Is it a good time of year to get a pet? Only because it's warm weather and it's easy to
Right.
help them? This one's freaking out on the little glass. What else is going on at the Humane Society today?
Well, a week from this coming Saturday, on May the 12th, from 12 until 3 p.m., we're having our open house and also our first canine carnival, which is a dog contest.
A dog contest, and
Contest.
you're going to judge what they look like and things?
Yeah, several different categories: largest dog, smallest dog, best trick, whatever. And
Should be a lot of fun, huh?
people can call us if they need more information. So,
Okay. Thanks so much for being here with these super little pets.
thank you.
And now from kitty cats to England. What a good transition. And on our trip through the English countryside today, Paul Ryan takes us to a centuries-old town where Sir Winston Churchill himself got him start.
Woodstock is a typically English village. You'll find buildings that are centuries old and interesting shops to browse in, which is, fortunately, a perfect activity for a rainy day.
Something you'll have to get used to as you wander the English countryside is this right here, the cold, damp, gray weather, but it's certainly not worth letting it get you down. I think it only adds to the mood, helping to bring out the medieval quality and the Elizabethan atmosphere of this place.
And if it's history you're looking for, you'll find it just outside of Woodstock. This is Blenheim Palace, the birthplace of Sir Winston Churchill. Admission to the palace, about $6. Out here in the country, away from the tourist attractions, I didn't expect to find people friendly toward visitors. I was wrong. The people we met were warm and very helpful.
People are so friendly. They always say hello. I must have said hello to 1,000 people today just on one walk for an hour. So they're really very charming.
One thing that you may not find so charming is the food. The English reputation for plain, heavy food is well-founded. Although it may not appeal to your palate, it will certainly appeal to your wallet. The English pubs have the best buys around. Here you will find plain, hearty meals like sausages and vegetables, shepherd's pie and cheese plates. Wash it all down with a pint of ale and pay less than $10 for the entire meal. The pubs are also the place to meet and mingle with the locals. In our next report, we'll take you to a castle that the folks around here say is haunted.
Paul Ryan for Newswatch 7 and 4.
And on this sunny afternoon, it's time for a bright spot. Here's Dr. Homer Nye.
The woman was standing at the bus stop with a group of people when she unexpectedly heard the song of a robin. She looked around, eager to share this first sign of spring, but no one else seemed to have noticed. Just before the bus came, a man dropped a coin on the pavement. Everyone heard the clink and instinctively looked down. The woman wondered, why did everyone hear the clink of the coin but miss the robin song? Each of us tends to hear what we listen for and fail to hear what we do not listen for. What makes the difference? Our priorities. The life priorities we select determine what we hear. What we hear determines what we think about most of the time, and what we think about most of the time determines our behavior and thus what we accomplish. What are your priorities? And that's today's Bright Spot. I'm Homer Nye.
Thursday on Newswatch at noon, summer sun. Well, it may look pretty, but the damage it can cause our skin is not pretty at all. Find out some ways to protect yourself when we talk with Dr. Susan Noble. That's Thursday on Newswatch at noon. And tonight at 6, Terry Camp continues his series for Time to Care About the Earth. Hope you can join us then. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. Be sure to get out there and enjoy the sunshine, and I'll see you again tomorrow morning.
NBC News at this hour, I'm Stephen Frazier.